Hey, you're back. Guess what? Today I'm making cabbage. Right? I've been having a little bit of stomach issues. I need something to flush out the digestive tract. So cabbage will do it. High in fiber, protein, a lot of health benefits. But because I'm making it for the peanut gallery, I'm also going to add some sausage in there, some smoked sausage. It's going to have some salt pork. It's going to have some ham hock in it, right? I know you're going to enjoy it. Check it out. This is it. Good to go. Let me taste a little bit here. See if it's up to my standards. Yep. Yep. You gotta learn how to make this. Hey, this is Shrashira. That's the best elevator music I ever heard. Okay, so for this first part, we want to get our pot liquor ready. And to make the pot liquor, we're going to use, of course, our ham hocks, right? I have a quarter of a big onion, right? Black pepper, granulated garlic, and some salt. We're going to add these to a pot, and we're going to cover it with water, and we're going to let it boil for a minimum of 2 hours. Probably closer to 2.5 hours to make sure the ham hocks are nice and tender. And since I'm talking about ham hocks, make sure when you get your ham hocks, before you cook them, make sure you wash them, like with any meat, with the exception of ground beef or ground meats. You want to wash it, right? Because when the butcher or the company is cutting up the meat using the bandsaws or whatever, you have bone chips. Don't nobody want to be eating any bone chips, right? You don't want the, you expect the meat to be tender, soft. You don't want any hard particles in there. So make sure you give it a good wash. Or you need some good cold water. Wash it really good, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so to this pot, we're gonna add our onion. You don't have to dice up or anything like that. We're just using it for the liquor, and we'll cover that pretty soon. With a pepper, right, couple teaspoons of pepper. Now you want about a tablespoon of your granulated garlic, right? It's not going to be too much, so don't worry about that. And then you're going to want about a teaspoon of salt, because the pork is already salty as is, right? And then we're going to add our ham hocks to it. And now we're going to cover this with water, and we're going to put it on the stove. And we're going to turn it to medium high. And once it starts boiling, we're going to turn it down so it can simmer for the remaining of the time. So as you can see, I just barely covered it with water. We're going to put the lid on. And once this comes to a boil, we're going to crack the lid and turn it down to a simmer because you don't want it to overflow. So keep your eyes on it. Alright? So you see how it's starting to percolate now? Right? So now at this point, we're going to crack the lid. We're going to turn it down to medium-low. And we're going to let this go for 2 hours. And then we're going to check it and see what we're working with. What I have here is salt pork. Right? I like it to get it sliced. It's just easier to handle. I don't put bacon in my cabbage, but I put salt pork. So you can kind of think about it like a heftier version of bacon. But it's really salty. So I have some water here, and you just want to peel the slices off, put them in the water, and we're going to let them sit and soak in the water for about 5 minutes. And that's going to get all the excess salt off of it. If you go any longer than that, it's going to taste like nothing. and ironically, you're going to have to add salt to it. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. Now we're going to take our salt pork, put them on the paper towel, and we want to dry them. Get this excess water off of them. You don't have to dry them completely, but you definitely want to get the excess water off of them. And we're going to put this on a cookie sheet. It doesn't necessarily have to be lined with anything, but it just needs to be a pretty big, cookie sheet to hold all the salt pork. Sometimes they cut them a little thicker than normal. And it's okay if they touch, you just don't want them to overlap. You don't want to eat salt pork without letting them soak for 5 minutes, because there's so much salt in it. Oh, it's almost like instant high blood pressure. So you want to let them soak a maximum of 5 minutes. And there we go. They all fit. Now we're going to put these in a preheated oven. It's going to be preheated to 400 degrees. And we're going to do it for 15 minutes to begin. And then we're going to turn them over. And we're going to do it for an additional 10 minutes. Alright, so now we're going to put these in the center of a 400 degree oven. 15 minutes. And then we're going to flip them over and give them another 10 minutes. And then by that time they should be done. Don't throw that grease away. Do not throw that grease away. We're going to need it. Alright, so it's been 15 minutes. Let's give it a look. Yeah, I'm not happy with this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it 5 minutes, but I'm going to raise the temperature up to 450, because it should be crunchy on this side by now. So I'm going to give it 5 minutes at 450, and then we're going to check it again. Alright, so now we're going to check these. We're going to turn them. Yeah. Looking much better. Woo! Tried to get me. Turn them over. That's why you gotta be careful, because they will pop and get out of control. Now we're gonna give this 10 minutes. Alright, so I think some of these are done. Not all. So the ones that I think are done, I'm going to pull them. So I'm not trying to burn them up. Some are thinner than others. So to get these guys back in here, they're probably going to need like another 5 minutes, and they'll be good to go. All right, now we're looking at our ham hocks. They're still not where I want them. It's been almost 2 hours. They may have to go 3. If they want to go 3, I'm down with it. Okay, so the next part, we have our oil here. It's like 3-4 tablespoons that came from the salt pork. We have 3 chicken bouillon cubes, small ones. We got about ½ a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. Got about a teaspoon of black pepper. Got about a ½ stick of butter. I have a couple onions that we've diced up. Got roughly, I would say a cup or 8 ounces of sausage that we've sliced up. We have our cabbage here, as much cabbage as you want. We have our salt pork. And don't come for me. I know it looks like a little bit. I was nibbling. I ate a bunch of it. And we have our ham hocks that I've torn the meat off the bone, got rid of the fat, because the peanut gallery, they don't do that. So now let's get this into the pot. Let's get this going. So our burner's on. Now we're going to add the oil, or I guess the rendered fat from the salt pork. Pour that in there. Seems like a lot, but we're going to need it. And we're going to add our onions. The onions in. Get this mixed in. Make sure the onions are coated good with the oil. Now let's add our sausage. And the sausage is going to release its own oil as well. Okay, now we're going to add our pepper. Pepper here. So we're going to let this cook for a couple minutes and we'll be right back. Okay, let's add our crushed red pepper flakes. Sprinkle those in now. These are mixed. And you can add more crushed red pepper flakes if you like. But you know, with me, the peanut gallery, they don't like it real hot, or so they say. Even though I make their food hotter and hotter every time and they eat it up. But it's completely up to you. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to add our cabbage. And I'm only making a little bit, so this is only like, 3/4 of a head of cabbage. So if you saw my other recipe, I used, a quarter of the cabbage to make the steamed buns. And you're going to let this fry for a couple minutes, and then we'll be back. Now remember, when we were boiling the ham hocks, that pot liquor, we want to keep that, because now we're going to add a couple ladles of the pot liquor to our cabbage. Yeah, 3 should do it for now, maybe 4. Okay. And also at this point, we're going to add our chicken bouillon cube. Now, if you don't have the chicken bouillon cubes, you can add easily like a 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup of chicken broth. Let's get this all mixed in. And now, let's add our ham hock, the meat, back to this. Get all the meat back in there. Like I said, I removed the fat. The people in this household, they don't like the fat, so I remove it. But if you enjoy the fat, keep it in there. Fat is now we're going to add our butter. Okay, butter goes in. Okay, now we're going to turn this down to medium-low. We're going to put the lid on it. And we're going to let this go for about 15 minutes. And then we might add a little bit more of the pot liquor to it. But we'll see how it goes, because cabbage will produce its own liquid. But we'll check it out. Alright, so it's been a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Let's see what we got here. Look at this. Can you tell? Look at all this liquid. The cabbage is starting to wilt. All this additional liquid came from the cabbage. Alright, and that's good. And I'm going to let this cook. Of course, I'm going to check it periodically. But I'm going to let this cook for probably about 45 minutes total. Because that's about where I like my tenderness. But it's completely up to you. Right? If you want it to be a little harder, cook it less. If you want it to be a little more softer, a little more tender, cook it longer. But it's completely up to you. But it seems to me, the sweet spot is 40 to 45 minutes. So keep that in mind. Right, so I know I'm going to be asked this, so I'm going to go ahead and say it now. Pot liquor. What that is, there's the juice or the liquid that is in the pot when you're boiling or simmering your meat products in your pot, which is all the seasonings, the vegetables, that thick gravy-like liquid that eventually builds in the pot. That is pot liquor. It is very delicious, and you should use it every chance you get. You won't be disappointed. Okay, so now we got about 15 minutes left, and what I'm going to do now at this point, I didn't forget, but we're going to add our salt pork. I know there's only a few pieces. Don't come for me. snacking, and we're going to crack the lid so we get some evaporation action happening. Right? We don't want all that water. Okay? So we're going to let this go for 15 minutes and see what we got. All right, see what we got. Yeah. And we are done. They've broken down nicely because I cut them real thin. Let's get these plated up, see what we got. Our meat medley, cabbage, sausage, salt pork, ham hocks, and there it is. Yeah, you should definitely try this out. Delicious, especially if you're a meat eater. You're going to enjoy this. That being said, this is Shrashira. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, definitely share it out. I am out. Because clearly, it's time for me to eat.